So, hello and welcome to the latest of our Marketing Briefs webinars. My name's Bonnie. I'm from Ledger Bennett. I'm the Senior Content Strategist here. And the subject of today's webinar is Welcome to the MarTech Jungle. So just before we get going, just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Marketing Briefs webinar series that we've been running over the past few weeks now. So we are running a webinar every 2 weeks that are just simply 30 minutes long. They are short, sharp, focused, and they are free of marketing jargon. We've got some webinars that are coming up over the next few weeks, which you may be interested in. So we have email legislation on the 28th of September. We've got a particular focus on demand centres on the 12th of October. And all the way into January, believe it or not, we're already scheduled that far. We're talking about marketing automation on the 25th. If you're interested in any of the upcoming topics, just drop us an email at demandmore@lbdga.com and we'll be making sure that you're added to that invite list. So just before we get going then, so just a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Bonnie Parker-Davis. I'm the Senior Content Strategist here at Ledger Bennett. I am definitely obsessed with storytelling and campaign development. But today's focus is absolutely all about MarTech, so enough about me. So just to introduce you then, Tim Bone will be our main speaker today. He's our Chief Marketing Technologist. Tim, are you there?
I am. Hello, Bonnie.
Hi Tim, just like to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. My name is Tim Bone. I'm the Chief Marketing Technologist at Ledger Bennett. So I head up the MAP, marketing automation, web, CRM integration, reporting, that kind of thing at Ledger Bennett. And I have a global role because I'm actually based over in the US, helping grow our business over here. But I have had a background of about 20 years working in web and digital technologies.
Fantastic. So definitely the right man for the job today then.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. Definitely the man with all the answers. So what we'll be covering today then. So the first topic is just explaining what a marketing tech stack actually is. We'll be exploring that. Secondly, understanding what the marketing technology landscape actually looks like. Mapping out your needs, then thinking about from a practical perspective what marketing tech you might need in your organisation. Moving on then to getting the most out of your technologies, and then finally putting your marketing technology stack to work. Now, just to say that obviously we only have half an hour, we are going to rattle through this subject, so there is lots and lots of information here. You will be receiving a recording of the webinar after the webinar has actually been delivered, so you can go back and review that recording, and also you will be receiving a set of those slides if you would like them, so just let me know. We will have time for questions at the end, so again, if you are looking to ask a question from either myself or from Tim around the marketing tech stack, obviously please do so. Just pop a question into the chat box on your screen and we'll be absolutely there to answer it at the end. So just tapping into the title of today then. So obviously we're welcome to the MarTech jungle, so we thought it might be a bit fun. Welcome to the funnel. We've got leads and names. Not saying that we like pop culture references or anything like that. So
who is that, Bonnie?
You know what? Is that John Bon Jovi?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm not into rock.
Right,
Carry on.
Very 80s. Right then, Tim, over to your good self.
Sure. Okay. So first slide we've got here is just a quote from SnapApp, just to kind of describe what marketing technology is. And they quote it as being a marketing technology stack is a group of technology-based tools, software as a service platforms, traditional software, social media, etc., that marketers use to efficiently and effectively conduct and monitor their marketing efforts, which sums it up pretty nicely. And quite often it seems to be a modern way of talking about this stuff. We talk about the stack, marketing tech stack. So that's what we're talking about today. So what is marketing tech? So a marketing tech stack is a collection of technologies used to execute marketing campaigns. And the marketing tech landscape is extensive and still growing, and I'm going to come to that later just to show you kind of how big it's got. What your stack consists of is entirely up to you. There's no right answer to any of this. It's really down to your needs. And again, that's something we want to talk about today, is making sure that you're following your needs rather than what the technology vendors are telling you need.
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it, Tim? The fact is every organisation is different. Best practice is great, but it's really about, what do you exactly need to do? Where are your gaps right now?
Exactly. Let's start with your business rather than here's this great new product I've just heard about.
Yeah, definitely.
It can be overwhelming to find the right tools for your company again, so we're going to talk a little bit about various resources online that might help kind of filter out some of the kind of the noise of the marketing tech world.
And it's a pretty noisy landscape, that's for sure.
It is
Right,
getting noisy.
sounds good.
So the first thing I want to do here is just talk about how different technologies are split up, different types of technology. I'm following a particular categorization from one of the resources I'm going to show later. Let's just walk through some of these categories here. So the first one is advertising and promotion, covers mobile marketing, display, programmatic, paid search, paid social. So this is kind of the digital version of what we used to call advertising. Then we've got content and experience. So this covers content management, marketing automation, asset management, personalization, content marketing, email marketing, all these kind of things. So this is kind of our messaging and our communications. Social relationships. So account-based marketing, ABM, is a big part of this now. Social media marketing and monitoring, looking at what people are doing out in the social world, advocacy marketing, and obviously events, meetings, and what we're doing today, webinars. And then you've got sales. So this covers the sort of sales automation CRM side of things, does dip into e-commerce, which comes up, B2B is not necessarily always e-commerce is in there, but that is part of the mix there as well. And channel marketing as well, big important thing in B2B. Lastly, here we've got data, and this is sort of about building audiences, analyzing, analytics, dashboarding, visualizations, business intelligence tools, and DMPs as well. So that's data management platforms, which is the idea of being able to build up audiences anonymously and then push them out into display networks. And DMP and predictive analytics is a big growing part of the marketing landscape. So what I've now done is I've overlaid that. I've taken away the bullets and put in some example vendors just to kind of help crystallize what we're talking about here. So obviously in advertising we've got people like Google and DoubleClick. The Trade Desk is a DMP and DSP together. Content and experience, Marketo, big marketing automation platform. HubSpot, everyone's probably heard of. Sitecore is a big CMS platform. Then we've got social and relationships, Hootsuite. Cvent is a big event vendor. In sales and commerce, we've got Zift, or a big channel solution provider, and Shopify is an e-commerce provider. And then data, we've got Reachforce, our IP enrichment company. WebTrends is an analytics company, and Telium is a tag management system. So what I haven't covered in any of those are the really big players, and that's because they kind of sit across the whole thing. So you see at the bottom what I've done there is we've got IBM, Oracle, Adobe, and Salesforce, and they are now sort of building out offerings across that landscape, and that's why I put them. They don't really fit in any one of those boxes. And again, I'll come into a little bit more about the idea of between suites and individual platforms later on.
Fantastic.
So understanding the marketing tech landscape, plenty to consider as we've just seen, and the explosion of new capabilities and vendors. It's more than ever to carefully choose the components you want in the stack and make sure it's right for your organization. And every vendor has advantages and disadvantages. Like I say, there's no one right answer to any of this, and certainly no one right vendor. What you need is dependent on your needs, your priorities and size, and also obviously the needs of your buyers and customers. So let's look at the landscape growth over the last few years. So this is taken from a resource I'll talk about in a minute, but you can see on the right hand side the bar graph, you can see the growth in marketing tech providers and vendors. So 2011 we got 100, and then this year we're estimating nearly 4,000. So it's just a huge explosion.
Phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit of a gold rush, really, isn't it? And on the left-hand side, you can see the kind of spending we've got there on marketing tech, and that was from 2015.
Is there any particular reason, Tim, do you think that there was such a huge jump in number of providers from 2015 to 2016?
I I think it's sort of inertia, really,
Okay.
and people are just seeing that as awareness grows, the market grows, more vendors are just flying in there. There will obviously have to be a flattening. I think there'll be a lot of consolidation as well over the coming years.
Yeah, yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
So let's talk about a few useful resources out there on the internet. Probably the most well-known one, and many of you have probably heard of this one already, and this is Scott Brinker, I should say, sorry. And every year he brings out an infographic, and this is the resource we use to actually get some of those figures we just talked about. His website is chiefmartech.com, and on the right-hand side you can see that infographic. And every year he brings out this graphic and each one of those, you can't really see it there, but there's a logo for every vendor. And the first year you brought it out, you could actually see it pretty easily at this resolution, but now it's just a blur of vendors.
Wow,
Yeah, it's crazy.
that's
The next one, which you may not have heard of, is Serious Decisions Marketplace. Serious Decisions are a consultants based out of the US, but they also are to have a presence in EMEA as well. And last year they brought out their marketplace, which is a similar idea to Chief MarTech. It's not quite as extensive, there's not as many vendors in there, but they provide a bit of context. So they'll tell you what year they're founded, other employees, that kind of thing. So it's easier to actually kind of start filtering out and getting a little more information. I think even the things like the website is available on there, which isn't on chiefmartech.com. And another one, which I found actually while researching this webinar, is a thing called Growth First. Again, quite interesting, allows you to actually dig down by category. So you can see there it's kind of like a mind map, and you can click through and it will then show you the subcategories and eventually get down to vendors. Kind of interesting resource there.
definitely, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And in terms of events coming up, we've got MarTech, which is advertised on Chief MarTech. I think there's some relationship there, but there's one coming up in November in London, and then they have their main one in San Francisco next May. And then Serious Decisions TechX, which again is a marketing tech focused summit, and that's in Austin in Texas in November.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let's talk about mapping out your needs. So first thing to say is technology by itself won't improve marketing efforts. Okay, you can't just install something and expect it to work. It requires a mix of processes and skills to maximize value. So, quite often we'll see people bringing in technology before they think about how their internal processes are going to work with it, how their data taxonomies are going to work with it. So you've got to get everything right alongside bringing in the technology. And obviously, formalizing procurement is important. So understand your operational environment, as I've just been talking about. So don't make it free fall. You've got to make sure you're buying consciously as a company and not in silos. And start with the buyer needs and business objectives, not the technical solution, as we've kind of been talking about as we've been going through this. It's really about what your requirements are as a company, and that's derived from what your buyers' needs are. So we've got here a little kind of three-step process to how mapping out your needs. So the first thing I'd say is that you need to analyze where you currently are. So what's your current state? What tools do we currently have? What are our current capabilities? Why do we use the current tools? What are our must-have requirements? And what are our nice-to-haves? And then where do we need to be in terms of a future state? Then we look at evaluating, and what you're going to be doing is looking at each vendor, each technology, and work out, does that meet the buyer's needs? Does that meet our customers' needs? And also importantly, how does it scale? Does it scale to meet our business needs in the future? So it's quite easy to find a piece of technology that might meet your need in a very small way, but how can you roll that out maybe on a regional, a field marketing basis, or even a global basis? Then lastly, we talk about visualizing the stack that you're going to build. And there's a few different ways of doing that. So as a customer journey, as a data flow, or as a marketing process or function flow. Various different ways. Personally, I tend to, when I'm visualizing a stack, I tend to think about the data flow because that's kind of my mindset. But the others are equally as important, and probably you would apply a different visualization depending who you're talking to or who you are in the business. But what I've done in the next slide is actually give an example of a visualization.
Yes, to cue quite a complicated diagram.
Yes, exactly. Now this is something that we refer to quite a lot when we're talking to customers because having something tangible to look at can be very useful for working out where we are today and where we need to get to. I won't cover this entire slide, but very briefly, we're talking in the blue area. That's kind of our web layer. And that's our content, our messaging, that's our conversion processes. In the purple area is our marketing automation platform. So that's our outbound, our email communications. That's where we're collecting our data from converting contacts online. The green area is the emails. The orange area is our inbound. So that's everything we've got going out on the internet, trying to drive people back into our website. So paid search, paid social, that kind of thing. The grey area is our content management, our CRM platform, so our sales automation platform, where our salespeople are receiving leads, making calls, but also importantly feeding back the closed loop information when they actually convert sales and what the values of those sales are, creating opportunities, that kind of thing. And there's a few other pieces around there. We've got events on the left-hand side, and we've got analytics, and we've got personalization and predictive. This is a very useful tool when helping to map out the needs of our customers.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's fair to say though that you don't need to build that whole picture to start off with.
No, absolutely not. So we'd normally, again, that's why it's a useful tool, because we can say which bits do we need today and where are we heading to, quarter by quarter or year by year.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. So that you can visually actually see the goals and the chapters that you're trying to deliver.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so getting the most from your technology, let's talk about a few sort of key principles here. So rent, don't buy. Maybe slightly controversial to some people. For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. Cloud SaaS offerings offer huge advantages in agility, scalability, integration, and maintenance. So almost any of the technologies we see in that Scott Brinker diagram will probably be SaaS cloud-based offerings. Integration is critical. If you don't integrate your platforms and technologies, you're just not going to get the best out of them. So your data's, as I just showed in that previous diagram, data flow around your tech stack is absolutely critical. So web APIs are your new best friend. When you're looking at a new platform, you need to understand, do they have APIs that connect to other platforms? Are they already built out, or are they things that you need to get built for you using APIs? And training. Your marketing tech stack is only as good as your team running it. Make sure you factor in training into everything you're doing, because if your team can't use them, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, I think that's really fair to say that sometimes we work with clients who have heavily invested in this kind of technology, and their teams perhaps don't even know a tenth of the functionality that is available to them, and yet we're still hoping that it's going to achieve everything that we hope it will.
Yeah, yeah. And that also goes not only for the actual technology themselves, it goes for the principles and the strategy around it. So quite often we'll see teams that may be sticking to old ways of doing things when they've got technology designed to do things in a more advanced or more modern marketing way.
Yeah, definitely see that happening.
All right, so let's just talk about types of stack we've got here. So 3 different types of stack. Suites is the first one here, and as I said before, we've got certain vendors out there now that are building technologies across different types, different categories of technology. So Adobe, Salesforce, Oracle are all building out suites, a single vendor, single support. So the advantages are you've only got one vendor you're talking to. Integrations should be pre-built between them and offer a broad functionality. The downsides are that you're stuck with what they've got, can be less agile, sorry, and you're sort of putting all your eggs in one basket with that vendor. And they also can be quite expensive. Platforms approach. So Salesforce is also a platform as well as being a vendor of particular offerings. And so this actually allows you to build out functionality yourself. So if you have a developer, you can build on top of the Salesforce platform your own solutions, or you can go out to the community and see what offerings they have that may be freeware, sort of shareware type things, or they may be small apps that you can plug into their platform. The advantage of this is integration should be fairly straightforward. And then the most common way of doing things is a portfolio. So you go out and you just see for that particular function what's out there in the market. I'm going to go and buy that one. Advantage there is that products can be best in class. You only buy what you need, and you can modify your stack as you go. So if you don't like that particular vendor for that particular solution, you can get rid of them and bring another one in. And they can be the most cost effective because you haven't got to invest in a huge suite of software. You can just pick the bits that you need. The downside is that you're dealing with multiple vendors with multiple different support arrangements, and the integration is down to you, so it may not be as tightly integrated, and your data's got to pass between various different platforms and technologies. But as I say, portfolio is the one we see the most. We see people trying to go with suites, but often they'll find that they're just not as flexible for their needs. So some operational tips about once you've got your tech stack running, what are operational things you need to do to get the most out of it? So first one I'm talk about here is define. And this is an absolutely critical one and one dear to my heart. And it's really about making sure everything's standardized in terms of your data, your naming conventions, lead life cycle, or parts of the lead life cycle and definitions of that lead life cycle. So what is an MQL? What is a SQL, a sales qualified lead, so that all the way through your technology, everything is working harmoniously and everybody knows what means what. And data taxonomy is another key one, is that when you're converting people online, if they're going through a form, for example, that you're capturing information in a standardized way that you can then evaluate them later. So a typical example here is if someone goes through a form, they're saying, well, this is my job role and this is my industry. So later on in your marketing automation stack or in your CRM stack, you can then evaluate that lead based on a standard data taxonomy. And if you're just leaving that to be free-form text or a very large taxonomy, then it makes it a lot harder to do these kind of automated processes like lead routing or lead scoring, things like that.
I think that's a really good tip, Tim, because again, we've worked together with different clients where perhaps they haven't necessarily seen the value of doing something like that. And actually just those simple things of making sure that, that all of the segments are the same all the way through the organization, the industries are the same, the way that we describe different job functions or assets even, again, Absolutely. To have that continuity across the whole organization is something that sounds so simple to do, and yet most clients that we've worked with, I think, struggle with it from time to time.
Absolutely, yeah. So measure, again, this is kind of closely related to taxonomies, but you've got to make sure you're measuring, and this means tagging everything that you're doing. So outbound tactics, inbound tactics, socials, posts, emails, they need to be tagged with the right way, so that when they come back into your environment, into your web environment, that you can measure them. And also measuring interactions on the site, have people watched a video, have people downloaded a white paper, and also measuring those conversions as well. So you can see form abandonment rates, which forms are converting people, which assets are converting people. Very key. Standardization, as we talked about earlier, data normalization is key. Standardizing your reports, creating a framework for reporting, creating key KPIs as part of campaigns, and also standardizing the campaigns themselves. So maybe have a standard campaign for an event play, a standard campaign for a webinar play. If your marketers will keep going back and reinvent the wheel every time, it's just going to mean that you're wasting an awful lot of time and resource to get stuff done.
Absolutely.
Okay, putting your marketing technology stack to work. So we've got to crack on here. We've got 5 minutes. Okay. Tie the customer journey together. So data is the new oil, the linchpin that can wire ecosystem. Again, as we saw earlier, data is and integration is everything. Consider an agile approach, expand in manageable increments. So again, we talked about this earlier, but start with one part of your stack and build on it. An agile approach means do something, analyze it, and then choose what you're going to do next. Always on assessment, evaluation, adoption. Again, just keep assessing that your technology stack is working and doing what you need it to do. Your roadmap will evolve, so don't assume that you can sit down there on day one and say this is where we're going to head, because things might change, new technology might come in, and the way you go to market might change as well. Be wary of SNOS, so that is shiny new object syndrome. Again, we see this a lot with things like, for example, a DMP. So DMP is a seriously large investment, and make sure that there is a requirement in your business to buy something like that. That's just an example, but we see it quite a lot. Is someone say, "I found this new piece of technology, I want to find a reason to use it," but well, that's not the right way around. You've got to think about your business objectives first.
Yeah, absolutely. Shiny new toys just won't work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, things to avoid. Waiting for data. See this a lot. We see people saying, right, well, we'd really like to get marketing automation going, but our databases are an absolute mess. So hear this a lot. And your databases are never going to be 100% clean. And while you're waiting for your data to be clean, they're an aging asset and your database is getting old. So don't wait for data, just get on and do it. And your marketing tech stack itself can actually help clean the data. So you could send out a cleaning automation play, or you get people to convert through their form, and using normalization you can clean that data up. Focusing on outbound. So batch and blast is a blunt instrument. It's an old way of thinking. There's still a place for it, but you've equally got to focus on inbound as well. So i.e. Social, organic, programmatic, things like that is equally important these days. Operating in silos. So you need some sort of central governance here to make sure people are all working together. And this is about making sure they're utilizing the standardizations we talked about earlier. So the taxonomies, the standard naming conventions, things like that. Everyone's got to be working together, and they can't be working in the kind of old field marketing kind of everyone doing their own thing separately. Forgetting legislation. So again, we see this a lot. There's a lot of legislation out there, particularly in the EU, about privacy and security, and that really needs to be part of your thinking when you're building out your tech stack now. Even things like audit trails, when people opt in and opt out, you need to be able to prove those audit trails. And purchasing lists is not really a long-term strategy anymore, because it just really hits those privacy regulations. Some long-term objectives then, where we're trying to get to. Always on, everywhere marketing. So this is about marketing plays and communications can just happen without having to be manually executed. This is triggering stuff off when people convert, and also everywhere is about not just on the web but also on mobile platforms as well. Customer lifecycle marketing. So we're not just talking about here lead generation, we're talking about also onboarding, possibly opportunity acceleration plays, cross-sell, upsell plays, customer recovery if they've lapsed. the full end-to-end of customer lifecycle. And marketing as a profit center is talking about return on investment and revenue performance marketing. So attributing what you're doing as a marketing back to a sale and an opportunity.
Wow, and that is it. Thank you so much
Dead
for
on.
making through.
Dead on the hour.
Dead on the hour. So unfortunately, we don't have time for questions today, but just to reiterate what we have covered. So we've talked about what is a marketing tech stack. We've talked about understanding the marketing technology landscape. We've thought about how to map out your needs as an organisation, getting the most out of those technologies and all of the questions that you need to start asking yourself around those, and then really started to think about how you put that marketing tech stack to work. I think there's been some brilliant recommendations there from Tim. But that being said, I know we don't really have time for questions today, but if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, then obviously please do feel free to drop us a question via email. So just quickly to let you know that we do have a webinar coming up in a couple of weeks around email legislation on the 28th of September, demand centres on the 12th of October, and marketing automation, as I mentioned, on the 25th of January. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask either myself or Tim, do drop us a line. We will come back to you. The email address to use is demandmore@lbdga.com. Thanks very much, Tim, for all your pearls of wisdom today. And thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in as well. Thanks very much. We hope to see you at the next webinar.